I remember being in Italy in '99 and enjoying this ravioli that was the best thing I had ever tasted in my life. It was so phenomenal. It was on the Amalfi Coast. And I had to think about it, and I thought about this in a presentation I did at MBA, and I said it wasn't the food, it was the experience.
Yeah.
It was the experience of being where I was at. It was the experience of being surrounded by all those waiters and hearing the Italian and the talking and all of that. And it's the same thing that we try to convey to everybody at a wedding.
Welcome back to Wedding Pros Unplugged. Today we are beyond excited to welcome a true legend in the Maine wedding business, and that is the one and only Fausto Pifferrer, although that's not how you pronounce it. He'll do a better job than me. From Blue Elephant Catering and Events. You don't want to miss this episode. I'm Kim Chapman Dion of Kim Chapman Photography.
And I am Misty Coolidge of Coolidge Family Farm, Maine mixologist, and Coolidge Chapel.
And I am Fausto Pifferrer, which is Pfeiffer for Americans. And I'm going into my 40th year this August.
Amazing. Well, welcome to our podcast. We're super excited to be interviewing you today. We'll start out with some easy questions. What do you do and why should people hire you guys?
I think when we first came to Maine, we are a production company. So what that means is we can handle everything within in-house. We have a slew of preferred professionals that we recommend. We also have a catering company attached to us, and we also help you find your venues. We have a company called Maine Venue Partners, which has venues under its umbrella that anyone can work at, meaning any photographers, caterers, planners, whoever wants to work there can work there because we make our money at the back end through the venues we help sell and promote.
Love that. And you are Blue Elephant Events and Catering.
Correct. We're an event company first, and with the catering is the secondary.
So how did you actually get started? I know you used to live in, is it Philadelphia?
I did. I actually had my very first company was called Express Caterers, and then we switched the name to Expressive Special Affairs. So it didn't sound so fast, with the food. And when you first start in the early 80s, the money's coming in, but you don't know how to actually save it or actually how to run a business. I sort of it all fell apart, and I went to work for two women who actually showed me my career. I'll be forever grateful to them. I spent 10 years with them, and then I went out on my own again with two business partners, but that was a whole different story. But my career started in Philadelphia. As a matter of fact, I was recently there for something, and I took a little memory lane trip, and I went to see some of the old venues one of them is closed, and it was really sad to see them in such disrepair. But it's kind of nice because you know what you did there and things like that.
Now, wasn't Liz Taylor one of your clients?
She was. So I did the Marian Anderson Awards, and I actually got to cater for her, and so that was kind of very cool. And when Marilyn Monroe was given the Mikimoto pearls from DiMaggio, a Japanese company, Mikimoto, bought them and then redid them, and they did the unveiling at that jewelry store, and we did the event for them there.
Wow, that's very
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's super cool.
So I got to see those and a lot of her dresses as well. But those were some highlights. Like I always tell, my NDAs don't exist anymore because all my celebrities have died.
Oh,
You mentioned something like you're showing your age.
Well, I tell people all the time when I meet them, I said, I'm not old, I'm experienced. There's a difference
right.
between being old and being
like
experienced.
Let's dive into catering. I know people want to really talk about food. I know as a venue owner, one of the biggest hurdles this time of the season, the industry we're in right now, people have a hard time finding caterers. And I think that there's less of them. You're taking less gigs from COVID. Like, let's talk about catering and what do you do when you go to a wedding? Like, let's talk about all the nuts and bolts of catering.
Catering is an animal within itself because there's catering, which are caterers, and then restaurants who are deciding to become catering. And we as caterers can do a 10 by 10 tent, one oven, one warming box, four tables. You can produce a dinner for 500 people. And if you can't, then you are not really a caterer. There's a big difference with that. Number two, with the catering world, I have seen less and less caterers, not saying they're not surviving, but it is getting hard out there right now because people don't want to spend, and it is very costly. And no one is out to gouge you for your money for food. Food costs what it costs. If you have a bar attached to your business, You can make the sale up on the alcohol, but you can never make it up on food. It's about an
Right.
11%. Steaks are expensive, chicken is expensive, egg is expensive, butter, oil, all of those things. And then to produce a job, which I've noticed sometimes, I'm looking for a caterer for $4,000. It's unrealistic. And the reason being is you have taxes,
But
you
why
have
do
staff.
people jump at it? Like, I'll do it. I'll do it.
They are, and I don't know if they're actually doing all the legal stuff, such as where's your insurance coming from that? Insurance for a company, if you are a full catering company, is $60,000 a year. That
Yeah.
has to come out of something. You have payroll tax, you have payroll staff, you have taxes that are literally the 15th of every month. That's your sales tax, and then you have your employment tax.
Yeah.
It is not an easy gig, and sometimes you have to break that down. And in the state of Maine, you are legally responsible to pay 8% on everything on your catering bill except gratuity. That means if you have a staff bill and it says staffing, that's the people that are working, that is subject to 8% sales tax.
Yeah.
So we get hit with a lot as
You
caterers.
do. It's a lot.
And take, for instance, then you get into tastings. That's a whole different background.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You definitely do tastings.
We do. We do them for booked clients.
Yeah.
And so you have to be booked and you still have to pay for the tasting as well. And that's not a money grab. I still have to have chefs on call. I
Yeah.
have to have service. I have to turn the building on. All of that happens and all that has to be paid for. And the food that you're eating has to be paid for because we do a full array of food, not just a little bit, because we want you to have an experience. And we do group tastings, which has really helped a lot and sort of kind of cut down having to do them every weekend. What people don't understand is I can't do your tastings on a Saturday in the middle of wedding season.
No.
So it'll either have to be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or you have to wait till the following year and you could lose us as a caterer because I don't hold dates.
Yeah, I feel like as long as you're explaining that, most people will understand that get it once you
Mhm.
explain why. Like, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. We can't have you, cook us food on a Saturday because you're cooking for 500 people elsewhere. So that does make sense. I feel like a lot of couples just need that explanation, then they understand where they're coming from. So as far as catering is concerned, I know with having a venue, there's so many different types of catering out there, and I really try to push for your type of service. Like I just toured with a couple yesterday from Texas. And one of their big things is food. They're really excited. So I sent them to you guys. I'm like, Blue Elephant is top notch. They are not only delicious, but their presentation is beautiful. Like I think you eat with your eyes first.
Mhm.
So a lot of couples don't think of these little things that, yes, you're a little bit more money wise, but you're getting an amazing service. So let's go into that a little bit more. Like what do couples expect when they hire you?
I think for me, the first thing I tell them is an overstaffed party is a perfect party. And the reality of it is, when you do not have a staffed correctly party, you really put a lot of that effort that you were giving them, it falls to the backside, meaning tables are going to get called up if it's a buffet. If it's a sit down, it's going to take longer. For instance, if we do a sit down for 800 people, which we do year after year, and they still keep coming back, in 23 minutes, we serve them a
Wow.
meal. And
Wow.
because how we execute it from the kitchen, and we have 52 people working, and we break it down to three individual parties, and I never look at it as 800, I look at it as three individual parties going on in the same location.
Mhm.
So there are three different dinner stations. Everything is happening at the same time. That's why we're able to do it. And I think a lot of times, and this is just my opinion, is I'd rather take less in the production fees so that I can have a well-run machine and not and two, it also helps the venue see us in a different light because we're there to break everything down for the venue. It's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is the catering team are the ones who are doing all of the work.
Yeah.
And there's this misgiven that we come in and we leave. I am there sometimes from 7 in the morning to 11:30 at night,
Yeah.
Mhm.
People,
nonstop.
people do
Yeah.
not understand the hours that
Yep.
all of this takes.
Mhm.
It's a 16-hour shift. And why I give a 16-hour shift is the difference between our company. Ask yourself if you want, as an employee, now say you're working for me, am I going to give you a 5-hour shift? Now, do you want to drive into Portland or Stockton Springs or wherever we're going for 5 hours, have to pay gas, have to pay tolls, and now I have to tax you because everybody who works for me is an employee, because that's how it works in the state of Maine, your check is not going to be anything. But
Right.
if I give you 16 hours, my staff is realistically working 6 hours, and the rest is set up. They're relaxing. They're getting a nice paycheck to be there to perform for the client.
Yeah.
And they're well rested. When you have somebody who comes in for 5 hours, they are racing around trying to get everything done, and they look exhausted for the client.
They do.
And not only do you look exhausted for the client, but you do not put your best foot forward for the venue, because at the end of the day, the venue is also your client. So for any preferred professionals out there that only believe that the client is your client, you need to really think about that, because I come from a venue background my
Yep.
entire career. And if it wasn't for the venues, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because it is for the venue, because when the client leaves that day, I still have to break everything down, because even if you have a different planner, and I can work with other planners, but you have to have your own team to do the work you have promised your client, because that is not fair to the catering company to do that as well. Because, for instance, if they get hurt while you tell them to do something, it falls on the back end of the caterer's workman's comp, and now you have to pay their insurance.
Yeah.
There's a liability, and it's not meaning that you do not want to work with somebody. You just have to follow a chain of command in order to ask somebody to move tables that was not in the contract. Let's say
Exactly.
that, and our team really does help everybody, but there's also a chain of command within the organization. You always ask the captain on the job.
For the brides and grooms out there, back to the venue being the client, I think it's a good rule of thumb to look at the preferred vendors list.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to look at the preferred vendors list, price those people out. And then when you go on Facebook, anyone that's going to charge half or less than the people on the preferred vendors list, I think that's a red flag. I'm sorry.
I agree. And the venue has done their homework by vetting all of us. And that's why they've done that. They've done it to secure that we're all legitimate. We all know what we're doing. We all are doing our insurance and all of the legal stuff in order to run a business. When you run into that, occasionally you can run into something, but you have the right to complain about anything you want. But do you complain when you decided to go down a route of $4,000? There's an old saying, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I look at people who are always looking, especially the wedding industry is taken in as I'm going to take all your money, but you'll go and buy a Louis Vuitton bag or a Birkin. I'm just saying some people will, and then you don't think about the cost of those things, or, because you want that particular item, you don't question the value of it, but you always
Right.
question the value of a photographer, a DJ, a band, a planner, a caterer, or the venue, and you don't look at the overall of what it takes to run it. When you look at a catering bill and you see $53,000, you think $53,000 is lining my pocket, and it's not. When you break it down, by the time that's all done, you got $20,000 left, and $20,000 now has to operate the business.
Yeah. Well, and then also, I have to remind my couples too, like if they want to hire a caterer that's less expensive, okay, well, are they bringing the tables for the buffet? A lot of I don't know. They're caterers, but they're not full service caterers. I guess that's the difference in weighing out of who you're going to hire, because you may save a little bit on one end, but you're making it up somewhere else. So because by
Sure.
hiring somebody that's not professional, are they bringing in the tables and linens? Do they actually have linens on their tables, or do they have plastic, which I've seen before from barbecue companies, which I love, but that's a different type of feel. Are they doing appetizers and past hors d'oeuvres? A lot of caterers don't do that. The non-full service. Are they going to come and set your china for you? Are they going to set the table correctly? I know you're a big fan of a properly set table. Are they going to clear china? I get some people all the time. I talk to my couples because I have all the rentals at my venue, and I don't mind setting it because I'm really particular about how it looks and how it's laid out. But your caterer needs to clear that as though it came from One Stop Party Shop. We don't clear tables. Well, then who do
Exactly.
you expect are going to clear the table? Then I've got to bring in servers as part of my bar service to clear the china that the caterer was supposed to clear. Right. So they have to pay more somewhere else. They're going to have to take care of those costs somewhere. And same thing with food trucks. Yes, they're saving money, but most food trucks don't do great cocktail hour. So then you've got to bring in another caterer, another charcuterie company that's going to be 1,000 to 2,000 with your drop off, your server, all of the beautiful accoutrements that come with a charcuterie. Who's going to maintain that board, or drop off service that's going to drop off hot food? Like, what if it's cold when it shows up? Are you bringing in chafing dishes? There's so many details when it comes to catering that couples just don't understand. And by saving a little bit on one end, you're going to cause yourself so much more stress. You're going to have to hire other vendors to take up the lack that that person isn't doing. There's just so much. And I really think that's where an experienced planner comes into play, whether it's you guys or myself who's a planner. Because as a venue owner and a planner at my venue, like, I want to make sure the caterer, the food is one of the most important parts for me. Like, they have to fill their bellies. Food is love. And if they don't have a good dining experience, then that looks bad on the couple. It looks bad on the venue. It looks bad on so many things. So there's a lot of small pieces that couples just don't think about when they're coming and hiring that food person.
And you just said a really interesting thing. You have to be very careful when you're bringing food from different areas and putting it all together into that one wedding. There's a thing of liability. What if somebody were to get sick? Who is going to get blamed? Because everybody's going to go, not it. And every insurance company is going to say, not it. Because if you had food truck over here and you had late night snacks from over here and you had the hors d'oeuvres from over here and someone gets sick,
Yeah.
who? Who
Yeah.
is going to be responsible for that?
Well,
Exactly.
everybody serving food is going to be brought into it.
Exactly.
If it
Yeah.
gets
And then
if it comes down to that.
exactly. And now there's that expense. And if you take them to court, they're going to have to cover that, because if you can prove that it wasn't your company, you can sue them as well for bringing you into that for court costs. And so you have to be really careful. It's better to do one-stop shopping than you hold one person responsible.
Well, and then they can do everything that you expect them to do. And I encourage that wholeheartedly. I mean, I love food truck weddings. I think that's a different vibe. I'm not opposed to them. But there's just a lot more pieces to the pie when you're going in that route. You need to hire servers because food truck people aren't clearing paper from tables. And now my couple's like, well, my aunt Betty will clear
No,
the
she won't.
paper plates. I go, oh no, she won't. And if I ask her, because if she's my point of contact as the planner, I'm like, hey Betty, so and so, the bride and groom said that you were going to help clear paper today. She's like, excuse me. She's like, no, I didn't have that conversation. Or even if she did, she doesn't now. So just so many things to think about when it comes to food service for weddings.
And two, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because trash is one of the biggest things that couples aren't paying attention. So in our contract, there's a whole section on just trash removal, what it cost, how much it cost, and if we have to do it.
Yeah.
People are like, well, it's just trash. I'm like, yeah, but my dumpster cost money.
Yeah.
So I have to pay for my dumpster to be removed. So if
Yeah.
I have to take it, not only do I have to wash my truck the next day because of sanitary reasons.
Yeah.
Now that you've put out my Sunday to hire somebody to come in to take it to the car wash, have it hosed out and then brought back. So that's all money. So when you look at $500, that's not a money grab. That's me not wanting to do it. You can tell your venue to put a dumpster in and they can collect that money.
But
But
venues don't want it either because I don't want stinky food in my dumpster. Like, I have a dumpster I pay for. My couples get to use it, but it's for cardboard and paper trash. Food cannot go into it because it picks up every 2 weeks.
yep,
So if you're the off week, your bride after you does not want to smell your trash. So that's the
exactly.
one thing I ask caterers to take there's just their food, just that usually the one bag. Cardboard can go in there, all those things, but any of your pans, food scraps. The other thing that you could do too is maybe garden to garden would be cheaper if you for that one bag of
We
trash.
we tried that and it's overly complicated. And that comes with a lot of
Okay.
it's almost like saying I want to go green. Well, when you say things like I want to be green, that costs money. There's your the bing, the light that goes off. Anything that's grass-fed, anything that is being brought in from another country, anything that is universally saving the planet, believe me, it is expensive. It is
Yeah.
not going to be cheaper because you said I want to save the earth. And I say that with love. I'm just saying look at a paper bag at a grocery store. They're not giving it to you for free. Grass-fed fillets are more expensive than a regular fillet. And I'd rather have a regular fillet that cuts with a butter knife than a grass-fed one that you have to use a steak knife and carve into. There's a difference between those two steaks, believe it or not. You want
Yeah.
mine that's not grass-fed.
I've worked many weddings with you, and there's one thing I don't think I've ever tasted your food, but it looks beautiful. The little details that you put into it, like I'll never forget those I don't know, you put drinks in a old fashioned bottle with a colored straw. I don't know.
Oh, the perfume bottle. Yeah.
But it's just the presentation as a photographer is just amazing. I can see you guys running around. The service is top notch, of course. But the way things look, and look, we're having a party,
Yeah.
and there's photographers. You want it to look good, just the way everything's set up. It's definitely top notch. I think.
And it's funny, you want your food to be good and you want it to all be exceptional, but there's I remember being in Italy in '99 and enjoying this ravioli that was the best thing I had ever tasted in my life. It was so phenomenal. It was on the Amalfi Coast. And I had to think about it, and I thought about this in a presentation I did at MBA, and I said it wasn't the food, it was the experience.
Yeah.
It was the experience of being where I was at. It was the experience of being surrounded by all those waiters and hearing the Italian and the talking and all of that. And it's the same thing that we try to convey to everybody at a wedding. Your food has to be great. It has to be wonderful. It has to be all of those things. But it is such a small moment in time at that particular wedding. I have to buy you 3 hours at the end of dance time so you can make the value of, say, you have a band, the value become important to you. That's why food has to be taken out very quickly and eaten and cleared so I can get you up and dancing. You want cocktail hour to be just as important. You want everything to be remembered, but it is a very small part, and people don't think of it like that. And and I think of it that way because that's in my mind how we were always taught that you want the whole 5 hours to be a full experience and not just this one particular part of it because it's so small that it goes by. It's sort of what I tell people when they pick their china and their silverware is remember that's going to live on the table for 1 hour. One.
Yeah.
That's it. Your centerpiece, your tablecloth, your chair, and your table, if you're having farm tables, those are seen from start to finish, never leave the table. Everything else is on there. And yes, is it wonderful to have a photo of a set table? Beautiful for the vendor. Will the couple ever put that in their photo album? Find me one at the
I
set
would.
Put it in my blog.
in your blog, but it will never go into their album that they have on their coffee table for their children. It will always be the photos of them, their family, the moments. They might buy the photo, but it's never going to make the album. That's just my opinion. But because I do tell my clients to always get the album because it is important, and I'll tell you why. Because it's documenting moments that they just won't remember here. Yeah, you'll have a video, but I look at albums more than I'll look at a video.
Yeah.
To me, I love the tangibleness of holding that moment in my hand. And I don't know, maybe I'm old school, but an
No,
album.
I agree with you.
It's great. I mean, because you're not going to look at it every day.
No.
But you're going to want to reminisce at some point. I said this in another podcast, but what are you going to do? Get your laptop out? Let me see if I can find. There are too many. We give them way too many. So you need to narrow that down. And
I still look at photos.
the cake does. The cake makes it.
The cake does, but that's different because the cake is that emotional tie because there is an activity between the couple with that cake. So it's a romanticized moment that happens. It's not with the food because 9 out of 10, the bride or the couple are too excited and they don't eat. They get very nervous. We assign a person to you start to finish. So there is somebody that is there to feed you. And that's a 2 wins for me because not only do I know that my team has fed you throughout the night, but also gotten you drinks. It's the only one that drinks. And that is their only job while I take care of everybody else. And we have a system of checking in with hand movements, thumb, this, whatever it is, to make sure everybody's happy. So almost like a baseball game. But
I was just going to say that, like when you have baseball signals.
We do. And they know, and we communicate. I don't use headsets. We communicate that way because it's a simpler way because I can always look over to their table because that's their own concierge. And like I've said in my meetings, if you didn't eat, that's because you didn't want to, boo, because you have somebody there to hand feed you if you want them to feed you by hand.
Yep. As an experienced planner, that's one of my big priorities, make sure my couples eat. Like I remind them, like this is your time. You paid so much money for this food. I want you to enjoy it. You've picked the menu. You've picked your caterer. Let's enjoy the food. Let's breathe. I've got everything else. Don't even worry. You've got the rest of the day to talk to your family. Please eat your dinner.
That's why I'm a fan of sweetheart tables, because it
I
gives the
love it.
couple a moment to not have to chit chat with anybody. It could
Hmm.
just be the two of them. It's almost like signing a ketubah. You have your 15 minutes of reflection after a Jewish ceremony,
Yeah.
but sitting at that table, it's just the two of you to breathe.
Right.
And
Well, and then people are coming up to them all night long too while they're sitting and eating. So if you got your best man and maid of honor sitting right next to you, then they have asses in their faces. I mean, people are going to be coming up and talk to them. So you're going to be looking at somebody's rear end while you're eating dinner because and that's what I tell them. I'm like, you want a sweetheart table? Well, I really want to sit with my best friends. No, you don't. You've got the rest of your time with them. Take that 15, 20 minutes of eating dinner, just the two of you. You can talk about, did you see Uncle Bob wore jeans to the wedding? Like you can do all those small little things that other people don't have to hear. And then anybody comes up and talks to you, it's more of an intimate conversation as opposed to the best man and maid of honor having somebody's backside.
Well, plus
So
you can't photograph a table with so many people. You know, when they're doing the toast, you want a reaction from the bride and groom. You can barely get in there with your camera.
right.
agreed.
Exactly.
And it's a moment that they can just sit there and reflect, even if they don't eat it, even if they just pick at it. It's there, and then we can leave it there while we clear everybody else's. And if they want to go back and eat it, I recommend not eating cold food, but that's up to you. The reality of it is just take that moment for you, even if it's 10 minutes, because you have the rest of the night. And I always tell my couples when we have our preliminary hearing,
Hearing.
our preliminary meeting, is to understand that you invited all these people, that you know them. You do not have to do stop and go at every table, because you invited them to your moment. And so instead of doing that and taking away from, I ask them, is dancing the priority that you want? Do you want to be up and dancing? Because I can get that room cleared and you up and dancing, because we'll immediately, right after dinner, is get the cake cut, move it, do a dessert station, and get everybody dancing, because that is something that's important. Then that's what we do. If you want to sit at that table for 2 hours and graze at dinner all day, then that's what we'll do. But you can't complain and say, I sat for 2 hours and ate dinner, because it
Yeah.
says it. And in your, when we have a meeting with a client, every time that you have a meeting with us, everything we talked about is time stamped and dated from its start time to the end time. And then everything we talked about is in a recap. And if we had to take photos of anything, it is sent to you. So every single thing that you ever address with us gets a recap.
I
So
love that.
there is literally a living document of your entire event from start to finish.
You know
Hmm.
what I love, as opposed to the couple going around to the different tables? The DJ plays a song and the photographer goes to each table. You do think that I wouldn't like that, but I really do, because I don't have to follow them around from table to table to table.
Mhm.
The guests love it. They have a blast. They start to figure out, okay, we got to stand up before she even gets here. And
Yeah.
that way the couple, they don't really have to talk to everybody, but they have a photo taken with everybody and then start the dancing. Otherwise, oh my God, you know how long, well, especially if it's a large wedding, table to table. Oh, they're only half done.
Well, and that's why as one of the biggest trends that I'm seeing nowadays, and let's talk about trends for a little bit, is longer cocktail hours. I don't know
Mhm.
how you feel about that, Fausto, but I love having an hour and a half cocktail hour. Like, why are we squeezing cocktail into an hour? It's too small of a time. To me, that's my favorite part of the day because your guests are so excited to see you, and you come out and you get a woo, and you got your signature drinks given to you. You can make your way around and talk to all your guests then. Don't do it during dinner. That's the biggest pain in the ass. Like, do it during cocktail hour. Get out there and mingle with your people. Have the first look. Get all those pictures done in advance. Don't have your guests waiting an hour and a half for photos to be done. Get it done. And so you can enjoy cocktail hour. Enjoy that cheese. Enjoy that $1,000 charcuterie spread. Enjoy your signature drinks. Have those conversations. And I tell my couples too, try to stay together during cocktail hour because the natural feel is for you to go here with your family and you to go here with your family. Try to stay together. I even had a couple handcuff themselves to make sure they stayed together during cocktail hour. I think that was hilarious. Like anytime you can pull humor into a wedding,
Mhm.
it's remembered. It really is. So that hour and a half cocktail hour is one of the biggest trends and my favorite because it
I,
really gets people talking.
I
I'm okay with that, but it is a paid thing with us, and I hate saying it like that, because when you
No.
book us, we're a contract.
Yeah.
And so when you sign your contract, you've signed it for 5 hours of food service with us from start to finish. If
Yeah.
you want to extend in the contract, it says, if you want an additional hour, here's what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Cocktail hour is, let's say, 5 to 6. By 6 o'clock, you're down.
Yeah.
By 6:30, dinner's coming out. By 7:30, you're up and dancing. And
Yeah.
then that's actually till 10 o'clock. But as long as it's paid for, I'll do anything a client wants, but there's
Yeah.
a reality to everything. And that means that if the party is over at 10, you can't squeeze an extra half an hour in there because there's food that has to be made. And if you only
Right.
pay for an hour's worth of food, there's the
Well,
problem sometimes.
yes. So that's a communication between the caterer and the wedding planner and the timeline to know that, how long is cocktail hour? We need an hour and a half of food there. Well, I mean, it could run out. I mean, it's cocktail hour. You want to make sure everybody gets something
But
for
we have to be
sure.
careful. If it runs out, the planner is not getting the review. The caterer will. So
Yeah,
there's a legal ramification there because if
true.
you thought it was an hour and a half, they can come back and say, well, we had an hour and a half and you ran out after 1 hour. Or the
But it's a
photographer or
but it's a
anybody else.
communication thing between the
Absolutely.
timeline and the caterer to make sure all of the bits and pieces are covered thoroughly. It's
Yes.
just communication. It's
Yeah,
100%
and I
communication.
think we have to put that a little bit too on the client as well, because the client is signing these contracts with
Yeah,
various people. And if the planner is not getting everyone, because we asked for it, if we're the planning company, I have everybody's contract.
yeah.
So I know what everybody has gotten, I know what everybody is doing, and I'll say, no, the photographer has put your photos here. I said you can ask them, but this is in the middle of you getting salad. So that you can have it done. And if you want a sunset photo, you now made it during dinner. And remember, we're working out of kitchens we've created. This isn't a restaurant. This is a catering kitchen that has been brought in piece by piece. And food has to be executed at a certain time. So when hors d'oeuvres are like towards their end, dinner's going into that same oven. There isn't a separate oven to do hors d'oeuvres and a separate oven to do dinner. So you have to sort of kind of do a dance between those oven and that warming box. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't seem to understand, because
Yeah.
when you go into a hotel, they have 7 ovens and 14 hot boxes. There's a different world between a hotel and an off-premise bring in and
Yeah.
build a kitchen from scratch. So
There's
yeah, so it's a communication thing, but I think we have to give communication to the couple as well, because
Yes.
the legality is, again, and I'm all about the legal part of it, it is the client who signed the contract and now has
Yeah.
to verbally communicate that as well. If we're not working with the planner and the planner has not reached out to us.
Well, just so you know, when you come into Coolidge Family Farm, I encourage an hour and a half cocktail hours. So
Yeah,
let's roll that in there because I think it's honestly the best time of the day.
sometimes that can feel too long.
And by all means, and if we need to cut it by 10 minutes, I'll communicate with the caterer. Are you guys ready to go? What's your timing looking like? It's all communication. I mean, if people are bored, then we'll slide things up by 10 minutes. We'll get people in. It usually takes 10 to 15 minutes to get people seated.
exactly.
So,
Your
you're gonna
cocktail hour might be an hour and 15 minutes because 10 minutes is getting everybody in their seats.
I raised my
right.
hand. Yeah. From a photographer's point of view, though, if you're doing a first look and all the photos are done, you only need an hour of cocktail hour. If you don't do a first look, absolutely you need an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We have to unfortunately do the photos during cocktail hour, half hour, 45 minutes
Isn't going to cut it.
at least. And
But even if you're doing a first look, you've still got to do the big family photos if they want those, and then you got to go sign the marriage license. You got to bustle the dress, and then still talking 15, 20, 30 minutes to do those three things too. So even if with an hour and a half, you're still only getting an hour outside. So it's something to think about as well. But yeah, I agree with you. A first look or no first look makes a huge difference in the flow of a wedding. Like, do you want to spend an hour and a half while your guests are at your wedding doing photos? No, get them done. That way you have all that time with your best friends and your family, which we know it goes so fast.
an hour and a half is too long if they've already done the photos. I
Yeah.
think. But then I'm not drinking. I'm just
Looking at the time. It's an interesting take. Like I said, I also like cocktail style weddings where it's butler hors d'oeuvres for 3 hours.
I love them. That's what I did for my wedding. I loved it. We had a normal charcuterie spread because I love my cheese. But then we chose like 10 different hearty past things. We had mini lobster rolls, sliders, we had French fries in cups with aioli in the bottom. We had skewers. Like it was hefty, fun food. Oh, and I love mac and cheese. So I did miniature mac and cheese cups. I loved that. People were filling up and one thing I loved with that too is that you have to have that menu displayed of what's coming, because if people feel like they're not like, well, I don't like this, they don't want to pass on it. I don't want to, hate food waste. So I love having that. If you're going to do it, have all of the options put on a board so people know what's still to come so they can pass on something if they don't want it.
And also we worked with a planner a long time ago, and I don't know if she understood the vibe that the client was going for, but she set the tables with china, silver,
Oh,
glassware, the whole 9 yards, and people were expecting food, and then they were expecting to sit down and us drop food down. That wasn't family style. So there is communication that has to be had, because we are not dropping hors d'oeuvre platters on every table. That's not how this works, because you are not having family style at $40 a plate. You see what I mean? So I think that there's a lot of confusion on things, and education is the one thing we absolutely need.
So
yeah.
tell me what family style is, because every time I hear that, it seems like they're doing it completely different at every wedding. Family style.
Family style is just a glorified buffet at the table. And
Right.
so basically let's say the tables of 10, and I only recommend family style be done on long tables and never on rounds. That is way too many platters to sit there. So when a Sorry if my dogs are barking downstairs. If somebody is saying, I don't know how they can hear the UPS guy. Sorry, I just watched the UPS guy come.
Hey,
They can hear something. So for family style, to do all those platters and everything, and you're telling me you're on a budget. Let's say that the client comes and says, I'm on a budget. I'm like, and the first thing they say is, I'm doing family style. Your platters and silverware and tongs are going to be almost $600 to rent from a rental.
Wow.
So that's not saving money. And so you'd be better off doing a sit down if that's the idea that you want, because you're having people pass platters. So for instance, if you have chicken and filet and asparagus and potatoes, let's just say in a salad, now you have a bowl for the salad, you have a bowl for the vegetables, and you have one for each of the items that are meats. So if there are 10 people, you have 10 pieces of chicken, 10 pieces of beef. And if somebody takes 2 pieces, now you got to run back and have extra put besides in the kitchen of 10%, because it translates almost like a buffet. So you
Mhm.
have to have that. Where a sit down, there's no extra meal coming. This is your plate. This is
You
all
mean
there's
plated?
not an extra plated. So a plated,
Yeah.
you get exactly what you put down, and it is more cost effective. In this new world we live in, family style and buffets and stations have become increasingly higher in price, because we can actually trim how much is spent on a plated meal and get you more bang for your buck as a plated
Yes.
meal.
Couples always get surprised when I say plated is cheaper than doing family style at buffet. They're like, "What? That just seems fancier." Well, it is fancier, but you're getting this food, not all of this.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's way cheaper. They're like, "Oh my God, that's amazing," because I didn't think I could afford to do plated. I go, well, then if you can't afford plated, you can't afford family style because the family style is more expensive. And you think about it for the buffet, like you don't want it to run out. I can't count how many times over 10 years I've had caterers at my venue and they've run out of food. It kills me.
mhm,
I
That
bet.
kills me. You need to have it over. The people from table one should have the same that the last table got at that
absolutely.
buffet. Not one thing should be running out.
Fausto, do you do small weddings? Do you ever
We
do
do.
like small weddings?
We do 50, 60. We've done 25. During COVID, we did a lot of 25-person weddings. I don't get called a lot for 25-person because, believe it or not, it is more expensive to do a smaller wedding. It isn't more cost effective. And I always give everybody the same scenario. Go to a fast food place, just two people, and you order that meal for two people. It is over $29 for two people to have whatever number is on there. And that's crazy. And I'm just going, because that food is very not good for you. And I'm not eating any fast food anymore. I'm fast food sober 4.5 months. But the reality of it is, when you look at that, people go into the mindset of, if I can get it here cheaper, yeah, but you are also paying for somebody else to prepare it, to season it, the oil, the butter, the service, the staff. There's all of that. But yes, I would do them, but they're not very you pay more for less, meaning that if I had to order it from my distributor, I'd be paying more money for 25 people as opposed for 200 people.
Yeah.
You get more bang for your buck when you can order in bulk as opposed to, you know. I would have to run to Sam's or Costco if I were doing something for 20 people because we don't keep a lot of stuff in-house. So there's not, our freezers aren't full of stuff. For every wedding we do, we order all new fresh meat coming in, seafood, whatever it is.
Yes.
And then if anything does, we'll, that's stuff that we take home. My staff is allowed to take food home at the end of the party because
Good.
can't throw it out.
Don't
And
want
I'm
to throw it out.
not somebody who throws it out. And I'm not allowed by my health reasons to give it to the client because they can get sick. Because if they leave it in their car, if they eat it the next day, if it wasn't refrigerated at the right temp, I can't take that risk. So they sign off on that as well. There are no to-goes. We do not carry them. I don't bring aluminum foil or saran wrap. That's not in my contract to do that.
Talk about your venues because I think a lot of people don't know that you're an amazing caterer. You're a planner. I've worked many weddings with you guys. Day of coordinators as well. But how does that work? You own and you operate?
So we operate a bunch of venues in the state of in Maine. One of them has been my longest. I actually acquired that one in 2007, and it's the Masonic Temple, and it's the second largest.
That place. That's underrated.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Second largest ballroom in the state of Maine for a private place. We just took over the Portland Club, but when I say took over that particular one, anyone can come in there. So it's open to anyone. I just bought the chairs for that location, so now it has chairs and tables. So now that's been hustling. We had our first event. Amy from the Black Tie actually rented it for one of her clients, and we just booked a 2026 client for a wedding there. Small world.
Have you been there, Misty?
Yes. When Black Tie used to run it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I used to work weddings there when I worked for them.
Yeah, it's my favorite. My whole career was historic mansions and museums, so I am more drawn to those.
Me
I
too.
love all venues, but there's something about saving a historic mansion from it becoming either a restaurant or a hotel or being demolished. There's something sort of gratifying about that. And so I love that about this property. When you go in, you can see the history of the two parlors there is always a male parlor and a ladies parlor. So I love that whole kind of feel. Then you go into the ballroom. The Masonic Temple has, a Tiffany chandelier that hangs in the Scottish Rite Room. The floors are parquet. There's scagliola. The walls are lined with this. You can't do scagliola. It's literally a lost art, and it's plaster mimic marble. And Buckingham Palace has a ton of that in their walls. We have a couple of properties up, I guess north. Is Bath north?
Yes, Northeast.
So up north, we have a couple of properties up there, and then we just picked up a property in Buxton that's going to be released soon, and then we have the one in Scarborough, Summer Winds, and then we also have helped venues when we know we're not the right fit. For instance, with River Winds, when we were working with River Winds, it was under the Maine venue partners, but what we realized early on that the owner needed somebody there more day to day.
Yeah.
Then we hired Gina for Beth. And then that was a really great relationship because then we were able to step back and let them run it. So we know when to walk away from something. And not a lot of people know this, but I was with Granite Ridge before that was even built. So I was there since day one. So at Flanagan Farm, nobody knows this. I was there when Gail bought Flanagan Farm and it was put down to its studs. The bar sits there because I placed it there. The floor at Brick South was poured for me. Nobody else can say that. It was poured for me because everything else that needed to be done wasn't done. But that's what I had ready for my client. And we went $100,000 over budget to make sure that that wedding took off.
I love that place too.
Yeah.
I love that industrial chic.
So there's your footprint is on. Because I always think it's always fascinating when somebody says, "Oh, have you worked there?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was there since day one." So I saw it incarnated into what it is.
So we're coming up on an hour, Fausto. Are there any, as far as catering is concerned, any last tips, anything you want to share with us that we haven't talked about already before we close up for the day?
I think for clients, one of the main things you should do is make sure that you ask the right questions. So if you're going to a venue, is there a kitchen? not a house stove, an actual kitchen to produce the event. Number two is to know what you're signing, because that's the first things I talk to everybody when you come to our offices. You are hit with insurance information at the front lobby. It is right there for you, because we literally want you to know what you need and is required of you from not just the venue, but from us as well. And then we also educate you on contracts, because the word deposit does not exist in our vocabulary anymore. It is non-refundable, and it's a legitimate contract that is signed, sealed, and delivered once you sign it. So there is no giving that money back, and it's not that somebody's trying to take away from you. What we sell is the actual date. That's all of us in this industry. Nobody is selling you anything other than the date for that event. So you have to understand that date is what's costing you money, and it'll be hard for us to resell it if we can't.
Yeah, I call it a first payment. I took that out a couple of years ago. It's no longer deposit. I say this is your first payment.
So retainer means you don't get your money back. Deposit means you.
Correct. And in the state of Maine, for anybody who doesn't know this, and couples should know it, one of the reasons why we do recaps and we write everything start to finish is that Quantum Meroot is allowed to be used in this state. And Quantum Meroot allows you to be paid for time served. So if you have worked with a client for 3 weeks and you can do billable hours, then your billable hours, and any vendor out there should know what their hourly rate is. I know what mine is, and those are what I call billable hours.
When you add up every single thing I do, including, camera prep, all the administrative work, all the emails, the drive there, the drive back, the shoot, the editing.
Yep.
4 hours per client.
Yeah.
And this
How many, Kim?
You should know your hourly rate.
What?
How many did you say, Kim?
$100. It's about 24 hours.
Wow.
For, if you got a full wedding, an 8-hour wedding, and then there's 8 hours of editing. But there's the emails, there's the phone calls, the camera prep, the drive there, the drive back.
Well, and then as a venue is concerned, as Fausto knows, there's, we got a landscape, we got to put flowers in, we got to pay for mowing every week, we got to pay for painting in the spring. Like, there's so much upkeep. You want every wedding expects their venue to be beautiful. So, we can't have people driving on the lawn. Well, like, why can't I park my truck here? Because I got 10 weddings after you, and I guarantee you they don't want to have a rut on the lawn that they can trip on. Like, there's so much, so many things.
Exactly. And I just did the calculations for another podcast that we're doing, so I'll share it with you. I have fed in my career for 40 years 1,754,000 people.
Wow.
I wish I would have taken $1 from each person.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And tucked it away in an account.
Wow.
What a good idea to start doing now, Fausto.
Right. So, but 40 years comes, like I said, it's not old, it's just experience, because in an industry where you're aged out very quickly, remember, experience counts for something, and not everything that's pretty in pictures will translate the same way if the person doesn't know how to do it, but they know how to do social media. There's a difference between that. And I
know. Would you rather save a few dollars by having somebody that's new and that's a rookie and hasn't been operating for a little while? Or do you want to spend a little bit more and get experience and and have that person create an experience for you? Like, I think, and I try to push that at my venue. Like, I'm one stop. Like, I'm not about creating your wedding. I'm about creating an experience for you. So I think that, and I thought all three of us, being NACE Maine chapter vendors, that we are professionals in our trade. We love what we do. We're not hobbyists. We live and breathe our businesses. We love, love, love our people. We love what we do every day. I wake up and I'm excited about what I do. I don't have another job. This is my only income. We are 100% invested in our businesses. And I think that it speaks for itself when people are trying to choose who to hire. Where do you want to spend your money? Do you want experience or somebody that's brand new?
And you do get what you pay for.
Agreed.
You get what you pay for. And it is expensive for us to run our businesses. This is not price gouging. I've heard that many times too on a couple of those Facebook groups. How did you get your name? This is usually Misty's question. How did you get your name Blue Elephant?
Ooh, I had a little toy as a child. It was a blue elephant, and then we named it Blue Elephant. I always have it with me. I have one. It's the only thing I saved from my childhood. During COVID, I had them 3D printed, and we give them out to people.
I have one. It's on my desk.
Yep. And we give them out. And if Kim, if you haven't got one, I will make sure you get one because it has always brought me luck. And I don't want you to worship it as a talisman, but for everything I've ever done in my life, that elephant has been there, from travel to the birth of our daughter, to being in the room, to buying my first house in Philadelphia, to buying my first house here in Maine. I have always had it. And it has always brought me luck. And during COVID, I saw I did it as to just stay connected to people. And it blew up during COVID. It is in Germany, Israel, Istanbul,
Love it.
Greece, Trinidad, and Ethiopia.
Her name is Ellie, right?
Her name is Ellie.
Oh,
And for a kid who grew up very poor, she took me on a lot of adventures when I was little. And it remains in my office, and I don't know.
Do you have that on your website?
I do. And
You have a story
so
about Ellie on your website.
we do. We wrote a
Okay.
blog about it because somebody asked me about it. And when I go to conferences, I always bring it. So when people come up at the end of a conference, it was very strange one year, and you can ask Ruben this. People are like, "Oh, can you touch it?" I'm like, "I don't hold anybody power." I said, "You bring your own luck to the table. I'm just giving you this as a gift," because I thought it was a little strange for me to touch something that they thought was going to give them whatever I have. I said, "Everybody is different." I said, "But I want you to have a little piece of me," and it's really nice because as you get older, and I'll be 60 in 2 years, you get worried of being forgotten in an industry where you have dedicated your life to,
Yeah.
because I watch it happen to a lot of people.
You want to leave a legacy. And I do all that I do because I want to leave something behind for my kids. I want to be remembered when I'm no longer here. So I think that's really important. Well, I love Ellie, and I have her on my wedding bookcase along with your blue elephant mug that I have of yours. So I love you guys so much. We've been through a lot together, and I love both you and Ruben.
When we had the cafe, we had people bring us elephants from everywhere. And when I closed the cafe, because it was not the direction that we wanted the business to go, it was a way to get a stepping stone in Maine. I counted 452 elephants that people brought us.
Aw,
I didn't have the heart to get rid of them, so they're in a box in our cellar.
oh, that's so cool, though.
that is cool. You should find a way to display them in your
It
place in
was too
Saco.
many, Missy. There were so many of them. It was just insane. It was too many. I don't want to get into another collection.
Well, thank you so much, Fausto, for joining us today. It's been a joy to chat with you. I know hiring Blue Elephant couples cannot go wrong with your superior service, your staff, your spirit. You've got a big spirit, and I think a lot of people in the industry, like myself, are like, Fausto's such a big person. I go, yeah, but he's an amazing person. Like, I love that spirit that he brings to weddings and events.
I do too. Love
So
you.
thank you so much for being here with us today. Kim, do you want to close us out?
Well, we've said it all. I was very excited to have you on the show, and we're also gonna have Ruben on.
Awesome.
I think next week or possibly Wednesday. I don't know. But yeah, love you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.